Oh, yes.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we're taking a look at the brand new Masters of the Universe Origins Teela and Zoar 2-pack. This 2-pack is an online retailer exclusive. Mine came specifically from Big Bad Toy Store. And it's a very interesting 2-pack because it includes a very vintage-inspired recreation of Zoar, as well as a Teela that is somewhat based on the vintage toy, but has a lot of updates that are unique to this release. So, if you've seen my reviews before, you know how this goes. We're going to take a look at this 2-pack's packaging, then we'll open it up. We'll get a good look at both figures, check out their posability, their accessories, any action features they might have. Naturally, I'll be doing some group shots and comparisons today, and then at the end of the video, I'll give my final thoughts. So Teela and Zoar come in this special, unique, wide box. So you get them fully laid out here with their accessories. You get Teela off to the left. You can see her sporting her classic staff, as well as a new sword piece, and then her classic shield and cobra hood. And we get Zoar spread out along the bottom right. You get his battle armor up top, and then his little perch right here. Say his, but Zoar's kind of technically the goddess, so hers. I don't know. Zoar's a weird one, where sometimes Zoar is his own thing, sometimes Zoar is the goddess. Whatever interpretation you want to go with. Up here we can see our 40th anniversary sticker, denoting the 40th anniversary of Masters of the Universe. We get some amazing artwork across the top. You can see Teela taking a heroic stand with Zoar swooping in. You got Castle Grayskull in the background there. You get their names, and you get a title for the entire 2-pack. So it's Heroic Warrior Goddess commands Flying Falcon into battle. So kind of just combining their titles into one phrase there. Kind of cool. On this side, we just get a little lizard-like creature skulking around on the rocks. Get an illustration of a kid using Zoar's action feature right here at the bottom. And then just some rocks with their name. Then we get to the back, and we get some really nice artwork. So we get Zoar kind of doing an air battle with his evil counterpart, Screech, which is, more or less a purple version of Zoar. And then we can see Teela fending off Skeletor here off in the background. See, she's got this ponytail now, which is something that's new to this toy, and may or may not be inspired by the 2002 incarnation. That's the only source of inspiration I can really find for it. The only other major change to Teela's hairdo comes in some old vintage stuff where she just had long blonde hair that was, just down. So this doesn't match that. So I'm thinking it's some sort of hybrid between her 2000X and, vintage appearances. Maybe, not sure. Up here across the top, we get flavor text for this pack, and it says, Teela and Zoar share a special connection, each tied in spirit to the Eternian goddess. So, again, they're keeping it kind of vague. They're not outright saying Zoar is the goddess, because sometimes Zoar isn't. Sometimes Zoar is a he. So, yeah, I don't know. We get, this little blurb about MOTU Origins, and we get the action feature callouts here for Zoar. It says push to make the wings flap, slide over Zoar's head, we're talking about his battle harness, and then snap it together around the head. So, pretty simple stuff. Down here we get our cross cells for the wave, and we get the Roton that I just reviewed previously. Then we also get King Randor, Whiplash, a comic-inspired Trapjaw, and Digitino. So those guys are all part of Wave 10, which is just now shipping out. Snoutspout and Leech right here, the deluxe figures that I just previously reviewed, I believe they were actually part of Wave 9, so this is kind of falling in between those two. It's very confusing. They're never very solid on what figure belongs to what wave, and it's often up to interpretation. Now, there used to be a lot of handy charts out there that would show what went in each wave, but those all kind of went defunct after Wave 6 or 7, so I'm just kind of doing the best I can to piece it all together at this point. So yeah, as usual, beautiful artwork on the back of the box. I always love the MOTU stuff because, they just really go above and beyond with this. And yeah, overall, it's very nice packaging. And if you're more of an inbox collector, I can't say I would blame you for wanting to keep this display just like this because it looks really nice. It is a very, very stellar looking presentation. All right, now we get to see our figures out of their box. And I'm actually going to start this off with a Zoar because I just haven't handled any version of this character before. So the first thing that struck me when I was opening this, and I don't know if this was the case on the vintage toy or not, but this guy's mostly rubber. Look at that. the entire top of the bird, from like the shoulders back, it's just really loose rubber. That was kind of surprising. I wasn't expecting that, because when he's in the package, he's kind of held nice and flat by the little shell there. So I thought it was just all hard plastic, but he's not. Or at least, pseudo hard plastic. So, his little action feature, he's got this lever on the back of his leg. You push it, and it makes him flap his wings. And, I get why they made him out of this rubber now, because it gives a very natural look to the wing flapping, right? It's not just, boards doing this. It actually looks like his wings are flapping, so I think that's really cool. Really cool. And the way it works is when you push this up, there's these little levers that pick up and hit these rubbery tabs right there under the wings. It just causes them to flap around. I think it's a really nice effect, honestly. I think that came out really well. So, big fan of that. We get his perch right here. Just kind of press the talons on. He hangs out. Pretty cool. And you can go ahead and arm him up. So we get this battle armor. This is like the backpack and tail portion. And you get these little missile launcher things that wrap around the head. Now, one thing I'm not crazy about is that to get this over his tail, which is a lot wider, you have to really make these little plastic tab things bend. They don't do well with just pressing down on there. And you gotta really kind of work it in. You also gotta make sure that the missiles aren't pressing down on the wings, work them under the wings. And kind of come back here and work it on. Try to get it past the rubber part. And it'll go, but you can see it's really just kind of stretching that out. I don't like that. I feel like, repeatedly doing that is going to eventually cause that to snap off. Alright, so you got the little hood coming around, and then you just push that tab through like that, and Zoar's armed for battle. Imagine that, right? An eagle with heat-seeking missiles. Very MOTU, right? Perfect blend of sci-fi and fantasy right there. A colorful eagle or falcon creature with heat-seeking missiles. What more could you ask for? Alright, now we get to Teela. And Teela, for the most part, is a recolor of the Wave 1 figure. She does sport the new knees from newer female characters and revision waves of Teela and the Sorceress. So they're a lot better looking, less plated layers and more like actual kneecaps. The head is an all-new sculpt as far as I can tell. Now, I thought it was the same head with just a different hairpiece glued on, but one thing I noticed, and you'll see it here in a moment, is that she actually has ears sculpted on the same piece as the rest of her face, and the Wave 1 Teela and her recolors, they don't have that. So I do believe it is a new head sculpt, or at least a retooled head sculpt. Everything else is the same. The tolerances feel great on all the limbs. All that stuff is really good. Nice and smooth, even better than most figures. I mean, she's just got everything you'd expect on an Origins toy. Fully poseable. Poses well. She's pretty stable. The female characters, they tend to want to, kind of flop either forward or back because they do have smaller feet than the male characters. So you do have to balance them a little bit more carefully. But overall, she works out pretty well, as you can see here. Now for this Teela, we do get a little bit more as far as options when it comes to accessories with the inclusion of this new sword. So if you're going for that classic, cartoon look, you can give her a sword. Now I will say this hand right here, the fingers are bent open a lot more than this hand. And I guess it's just from being in the packaging. She comes packaged holding her staff, and I guess from being in there, it's just kind of stretching these out. So she kind of loosely holds the staff just fine. But when it comes to holding the hilt of the sword, very floppy. Really doesn't work well. So, I mean, you can try to get in there, but it's going to be a little crooked, at least if your copy's like mine. Or if you want to have her wield it left-handed, you could do that. But work it in the fingers, because they are tighter on this hand, having not had a weapon held in them yet. And she can wield the sword in her left hand. You give her the shield. Now, she won't hold the shield forward well, as you can see. But you get it to her and kind of wrap around this way, she holds it firmly enough. And it is a more natural hold for the shield anyway. So you could do something like this and get a very cartoon-looking Teela. Because in the cartoon, she didn't have a staff weapon she used all the time. She just primarily used a sword. So I think that's a really nice look. Or if you want to go a little more classic with it, you could take the sword, and put her snake hood on, Now the snake hood, it fits a little differently because of the new hairstyle, but it will go on more or less the same. So I recommend clasping the little waist strap first. The belt area, whatever I'm going to call it. Getting that in all the way. And then you're going to kind of stretch this little loop over the ponytail. It's not much of a stretch. I wouldn't worry about like breaking the rubber or anything. And it'll go. And it holds the hood a little more even firmly than the bun did because this goes further back. I have seen some people talk about kind of sliding this loop under the ponytail first and putting it on that way, but that actually has the opposite effect where it pushes the hood away from her head and makes it look a little goofy. So you can do it that way if you want to. I personally don't recommend it. It looks weird. All right, so we get staff in this hand, vintage style. Give her the shield. And now you get more of a goddess-inspired Teela. Because remember, before the design was updated to this warrior princess, she was a warrior goddess type character in the comics and everything. And then eventually the two concepts split. They made Teela her own character, separate from the Eternity Goddess, and then just like took her design, made it green, and called that the goddess. So it's interesting. The character can pull double duty as either your classic, Teela, aka Duncan's daughter, aka Future Sorceress, whatever, or she can be the classic Eternian Goddess figure. It's really up to you. Now here's a look at Teela along with her Wave 1 counterpart, and that toy's recolor in Wave 6, the Eternian Goddess. And you may have noticed I haven't reviewed that one yet, or at least finished a review, and it's true, I'm perpetually behind on everything, so hopefully my efforts to play catch-up will pay off and, get all the new stuff done and the old stuff, but we'll see. So you can see, visually, she has a lot more in common with the regular Teela figure, which obviously makes sense. They both use white as their primary color in their outfit, though her white is noticeably brighter. And then she trades out the vintage Teela's more bronze colors on the outfit and the bracers and armbands for this very, very bright gold color. The hair and shield, and yes, even the Cobra hoods, are all molded in the same color across all three releases. And she does appear to have either the same or very close to the same plastic color for the boots, though she gets some white paint apps on the furry part on top just to help separate it from the rest of the boot and just make it look a little more realistic and well painted. So I'm actually a fan of that touch. And yeah, they're just two very different takes. It's also worth noting that she's significantly more pale and less tan colored than the old Teela. Maybe that's because they were going for a cartoon look, which portrayed her as being less tan, I'm not sure. But same overall look, just a generally brighter color palette. And then, of course, we get to the head. We can see two very different styles of tiaras. Hers is more of like a headband than anything because it just rests flat on her head. She gets the ponytail right there. Whereas these two get more of a tight, updo or even a bun. And yeah, it's just three different takes on the design. It's like the three incarnations of Teela, because technically, again, this was the base design for Teela right here. And it's just kind of cool to have all three. You get your vintage toy look, you get your more cartoon-like look, and then you get the goddess as a separate character. So I'm happy with it. They do enough different between the three of them, whether it's, completely different color schemes or a new head sculpt with new accessories. And I don't mind owning the three of them. These two are at least as different from each other as she is to Evelyn. New head, new colors, and a new accessory. So, I think it's okay. It doesn't feel too samey to me. That's entirely subjective, but I don't have a problem owning this version of Teela as well, especially because she comes packaged with Zoar. And I also think it was a really good move on Mattel's part to make her different from the regular vintage Teela, so that people that do own the Wave 1 figure aren't put off by this release, right? There are some people, I'm sure, that would say, hey, I like the idea of having Zoar, but I don't want to buy another, regular Teela figure. So they did something to, kind of spruce her up, differentiate her, and I think that was the right call. And this completes our look at the new Teela and Zoar from MOTU Origins. Overall, I'm very happy with this pack. I think it's very cool. I've been wanting to get Zoar and Screech for a while, and while I would have preferred just a single release because I didn't need another Teela, I also understand how that might be a bit of a hard sell because he is just kind of a mostly static bird on a perch. I can get why they would want to release him with, some other character, and releasing him with Teela makes sense. And I think it was also smart to not release just the same exact Teela we got in Wave 1. You know, you get one that's a little remixed. She can still serve as a, more or less vintage looking Teela, if you want her to, put the hood on her. Or if you prefer the cartoon look for the character and, giving her the sword and everything, you now have that option. So I think it's a kind of best of both worlds scenario. So I'm very fond of it. I was pleasantly surprised by the flapping wing gimmick and the fact that the wings are just rubber and have a very natural looking flap to them. I thought that was a really nice touch. Maybe the original toy was like that, I really don't know. Of course, that does lead to some concerns about degradation over time with the rubber, but we'll just have to see how that goes. Overall, I think it's a great set. I think it came out very well. I think it was reasonably priced, and it shouldn't be too terribly difficult to get. I think most of these online retailers have stocked a fair amount of them. So, yeah, I would pick this up if I were you, especially if you really need a Zoar. Hopefully, having Zoar now means we'll get Screech. I mean, they have been hinting at Screech for a while, but appearing on a packaging doesn't necessarily guarantee you a slot in the Origins line, so we'll have to see. But yeah, totally pick this thing up if you're an Origins collector. I don't think you'll be disappointed. And if you don't need another Teela, I'm sure you can sell the Teela figure by yourself and make a lot of your money back, because enough people would buy this very nice looking, brighter colored Teela over the old vintage one, which is admittedly just, I don't know, a little bland looking with the colors, very earthy, and not everybody goes for that aesthetic. So yeah, fully recommended on my part. Of course, that is just how I feel about this 2-pack, so now I want to know what you all think of it. Do you think it's a worthwhile set? Are you happy that it comes with a Teela, or would you prefer without it? Or do you actually just want the Teela figure and you don't really care about Zoar? Any and all feedback is always welcome in the comments section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a like. Let YouTube know you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. I thank you for joining me for this look at the brand new Masters of the Universe Origins Teela and Zoar 2-pack. With all that said, I will see you next time.